We'll move on to item 5, summary of feedback on short-term options for our green bin organics, where I welcome staff to provide a presentation. To confirm, there will be no councillor questions of staff at this point. There will be time for this after we hear from the submitters. Thank you. Stuart. That's right.
Good morning.
Welcome, good morning.
So we're just going to run you through the summary of the consultation process and the feedback. So I'll hand over to Tessa for the first bit.
Yeah, kia ora, good morning. Just to let you know why we're all here today. So the organics processing plant in Bromley, as you know, processes a huge amount of all of our curbside organics, including some that we receive from Waimakariri District Council. We know, and we have known for some time, that odours are affecting the local residents. It's affecting their health and their quality of life. So we have committed to finding a new way to manage organics until the permanent solution is operational. So on the 21st of June 2023, Council resolved to engage the community, mana whenua, seeking views on 5 short-term curbside organic management options. So 30th of August until 1st of October is when people were able to provide feedback on the 5 options. We are today hearing deputations from submitters. It should hopefully only take today. And then in December, you will be making a decision on both the short and long-term solutions concurrently. So the 5 short-term options that went out in the consultation document, we looked at alternative processing, so sending it to an alternative processor, composting plants and worm farms. We looked at the option of sending everything to Cape Valley landfill until a permanent solution was found. Continuing at the organics processing plant, but implementing an additional odour screen, reducing the amount of material that goes to the processing plant in the first place, which would minimise the outdoor storage requirement, and then doing partial processing of the material, so the first half or the first part of the process being done at the organics processing plant, all indoors, and then the second stage of processing being done somewhere else. So for the consultation, we really wanted to generate a citywide conversation and certainly to raise awareness at a citywide level. This is going to impact everybody, probably through their rates and the way that they can manage curbside organics potentially at a household level. We wanted to make sure that everyone felt that if they wanted to, they could provide feedback on this consultation. And we wanted to make sure that they understood the really complex information that supports each of those 5 options. So to do this, we ensured that information was as easy to understand as possible across multiple channels. The amount of information that was provided online was incredibly detailed for those who wanted the finer detail. And we wanted to make sure that residents felt they had every opportunity possible to provide that feedback. So our consultation audiences, first and foremost, Bromley residents and businesses were our primary target. And then we widened it to all of Christchurch and Banks Peninsula residents. As I said, everyone is affected. Mana whenua had a separate process that we followed. We had some other key stakeholders, including organisations and community groups. We also included Waimakariri and Haranui councils, as they are affected by some of these options, as well as the North Island councils that may be impacted if we chose to send our organics their way. We also shared the draft consultation document early with the Bromley Community Liaison Group. This is a group that Council has been meeting with for some time. And we wanted to make sure that they were really comfortable with the information that was being presented to the wider public and give them an opportunity to provide feedback and make adjustments where practicable. We had some really amazing feedback, which actually led to us reworking the entire options table to make sure that we were comparing apples with apples. so that people could intuitively understand the detailed information that was being presented. We made odour risk to the community our top point against all of the 5 options when we were comparing them. And the effects of odour section was moved higher in the consultation document to give it more prominence. And there were some references to Bromley that were removed as a result, because we understood that there is a certain stigma that this conversation brings to our residents of the East, and we want to play that down as much as possible. And yeah. So the engagement approach, as I said, 4 weeks plus an extra weekend, just to give people as much time as possible to provide feedback. It was very complex. There was a lot of information, and the booklet, whilst comprehensive, also guided people to go online where they could find out much more. We've got many, many web pages that go into the history of the organics processing plant, the history of our monitoring of the smell as well, and the 5 options themselves. The communications, engagement and marketing tactics were very all-encompassing. We had targeted emails to key stakeholders, digital, print, radio, outdoor advertising, newsline, social media, a display in the Linwood Library, posters in local businesses, and this was all driving people to the information available online or where they could find paper copies. We also had 2 webinars that were then put up on the website along with the questions and answers that they were available for people to watch at any time. Overall, the campaign generated a very high awareness, so over 41,000 views of our webpage and more than 2,750 submissions, which is a good size consultation for council. So I won't go through it all there, but that's a summary of the tactics and the results, and what you'll see repeated across all of those tactics is that it had a really good reach, and we're very confident that it was very well clicked on, very well read, and shared.
Excellent. So getting into the what did we hear, we consulted with mana whenua, and out of that there was really 3 key outcomes, and that was that whatever the option is that you go with needs to be effective in addressing the odour issues. They didn't support transporting the organic waste to the North Island, and were keen to see an option with as little impact on rates for the community as possible. So that was their main points. We also received a submission from Te Mana Ora, so Community and Public Health, and in their view, option 2 was the only suitable short-term solution for odour reduction, but they also noted that that's not a suitable long-term solution. They identified some limitations with each of the options, including unplanned stockpiling of materials, some vulnerability to extreme weather events, risks around not adequately addressing the odour and the impacts of the odour, and the impacts of seasonal changes in volumes for composting. David will quickly run you through an officer response to that.
Kia ora koutou. So up on the board, it runs through our response to the technical report that was attached to Te Mana Ora's submission. In that technical report, they were addressing the relationship, which we've touched upon before, with peak demand processing at the organics processing plant in relation to tunnel time, the time that the material can spend in the tunnel to mature, and that relationship and the impact on the compost maturity that is produced. As I said, this is a relationship we've been aware of and discussed previously, and have the data to support that relationship that is discussed by Te Mana Ora in their submission. Also acknowledging during that peak season, when the tunnel time decreases, the compost maturity does decrease, but the operator manages that as best as possible. I think instead of going for every point on the page here, a key area to acknowledge as well is also the age of the facility. This facility was been operating since 2009, so 14 years, almost 15 years of this asset. And this relationship we've discussed previously is partly due to the age of the facility, which supports council staff's work at the moment to find a long-term solution to replace this facility. Thank you.
Okay, getting into the rest of the feedback from the community. So who did we hear from? We heard from submitters right across the city. As you can see on the map on the left there is a good sprinkling across the main metro area. And then on the right, you can see that there was a big hotspot, unsurprisingly, in Bromley. The other one where we received quite a few submissions from was Cashmere. So you can see another dark spot up on the hill there. In terms of who we heard from a total of 2,764 submitters. 96% of those were people from Christchurch. That equates to around 1% of the total population. 76 submitters were from Bromley. That's around 3% of the Bromley population, and around 2% were from outside of Christchurch, mostly from the Selwyn and Waimakariri districts. And 99% of the submissions that we received on this were from individuals. In the table on the left there, you can see the split by ward, and generally it reflects what you saw in the map. There was a good range across the city of submitters, and there were some wards where we received a higher number of submitters. So Cashmere, Heathcote and Linwood were three of the highest, and then there was some others where we received less submissions. So, the feedback from Bromley residents. As I said, we received 76 submissions from Bromley, which is around 3% of that population. They were largely clustered around the Bayswater Crescent, Seascape Gardens, St John Street, Ropu Street, Munich Place and Glenbyre Place. There's approximately 470 households in that area, so in that dark area where you can see the purple on the map there, and we heard from around 7% of them. In terms of what they told us, we received some very mixed feedback from Bromley. So 41% of the submitters from Bromley said that their preference was option 2, Cape Valley. 34% said that their preference was actually option 5, partial processing of material at the organics processing plant. And while more submitters from Bromley indicated that option 2 was their preference, option 5 received a higher ranking. So you can see the average rankings in the table on the right there. The closer the average ranking is to 1, the higher it was rated by submitters. So 51% of submitters from Bromley indicated that some variation of continuing at the existing plant was their first preference.
We asked the submitters why they selected the options that they did in the open comments. So feedback from Bromley residents highlighted that they are united on the fact that they want action taken to address the odour. However, there were mixed views on the best way to go about this. So some residents want to see that action that will have immediate impact on improving their quality of life because they feel they are fed up with the odour. Others want a solution but are concerned about the financial impacts and environmental impacts. In this case, they tended to prefer option 5 to balance the impacts of the odour and financial stress on households.
And then moving into feedback from all submitters, so this is your wider cohort. Option 5, partial processing of material at the current site, was preferred by the majority of submitters, so 51% ranked that as their most preferred option. 87% indicated that their preference was some variation of remaining at the OPP. 12% indicated that their preference was for it to be moved away from the OPP. Option 2, Cape Valley Landfill, was the least preferred option among submitters, and you can see on the right there in the table that that received an average score of 4. So again, the closer the score is to 1, the higher it was rated by submitters.
And then in the open comments for all submitters, submitters who preferred option 1 highlighted the importance of continued processing but wanted it moved away from residents. Submitters supporting option 2 saw this as a quick temporary solution to deal with the odour. Many other submitters did voice concerns about sending organics to landfill, viewing this as a step backwards. Submitters who supported option 3 said that this was a comparatively low-cost option with environmental benefits, while continuing to work with the facility we already have. Submitters that supported option 4 said that this was a good balance of cost, environmental impacts, and limiting transportation of organics. Many also suggested encouraging home composting as a way of reducing organic material. And then submitters who supported option 5 preferred this option because continuation of processing organics was a top priority. They also said that it struck the right balance of minimising emissions, odour and cost.
And generally we know that the curbside organics service is well valued by our residents, and we see that in our residents survey every year, and the feedback from all submitters there really aligns with that other feedback that we get across our other surveys, so it all comes together and tells a story. We asked some additional questions in the consultation. So if the council went with option 1, there would be some additional material that needed to be processed. So in terms of what we did with that, all submitters supported composting at the existing composting plant, versus Bromley submitters where there was a preference to send it to Cape Valley. So that's reflecting what we saw across that wider question set. The other question was if the council went with option 2, Cape Valley, again, there would be some remaining that needed to be dealt with. And again, all of the submitters told us that composting at the existing plant was their preference for dealing with that. Bromley was a little more split on that issue, so 49% want to see it composted at the existing plant versus 45% want to see it sent to the North Island. We asked submitters to tell us where they would have ranked a South Island processor if one became available throughout the process. And you can see there that around 60% of submitters said that that would be their first or second preference. So it rated very highly. And again, that's the same with Bromley submitters. So if that was an option, it would be ranked pretty highly by our submitters.
And finally, we asked submitters if they had any other comments at the end of the consultation. So cost was a prominent concern amongst submitters and the impact this could have on their rates. The impact on the environment was also a key consideration for submitters when weighing up options. Many did not want to see organics sent to landfill, commonly saying this was the least preferred option. A number did not want to see organics sent to the North Island due to the related costs and emissions associated with transportation. Home composting was commonly suggested as a way of reducing organic material sent to the OPP, and most submitters were conscious about the impact the odour was having on local residents and wanted a quick resolution for their sake.
And that's the wrap up of the submitter feedback, but the full report is available with much more detail in it.
Okay, all done? Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Now can I get a mover and seconder to receive the information? Councillor Cotter, Councillor Henstock. Thank you. We now have over 30 submitters speaking today. Sorry?
To receive it, the council. Carried.
Carried. Of course it's carried.